Hey there YouTube. So for this video I wanted to cover the Form 1040 extension. So this is IRS Form 4868. This is filed by U.S. taxpayers that have to file a 1040, so an individual income tax return, but they're looking for a automatic 6-month extension to October 15th instead of that standard April 15th deadline. So I've got a couple things in front of us. I've got one slide here which covers kind of the rules and some of the background info. And then I've got a sample 4868, two actually. One that's electronically being filed with some tax return preparation software, a paper filing example, and then I want to quickly look at IRS Form 1040 Schedule 3 and how those payments are applied if you do make a payment with your extension. So if we go back to the slide here, just to cover some of the background. So, like I said, so U.S. taxpayers, they can file this form to get an automatic extension. That means if you apply for this extension via Form 4868, the IRS has to approve it. Okay, so it's an automatic extension in that regard, and that you don't have to get confirmation back from the IRS that they approve your extension request. So April 15th is the standard deadline. If you want to file this, it gives you another 6 months up to October 15th of the same year to file that return. Now, to be clear, and the IRS makes this very clear as well, the 4868 extends the time that you can file the return, but not necessarily pay the tax if you owe a balance with your filing. So, if, for example, you are prepping your 1040 in March, and you figure out that you're going to owe an extra 20 grand, you can still file an extension. But the IRS wants you to pay that $20,000 before April 15th in order to reduce any kind of interest payments or underpayment penalties that might apply. Now, you can choose to file the 4868 and not pay anything, even if you owe the money. That's okay. You'll still get the extension request, but when you actually do file the return and pay the balance owed, the IRS is likely going to assess some interest and underpayment penalties. Okay, so very important to kind of keep that in mind. So how do you file this? Well, the 4868 can be filed a number of different ways. So the first one is through an IRS-approved e-file software platform. So for example, if you're going to self-prepare your return and you're using TurboTax, the TurboTax software has the ability to generate 4868s. You can file them electronically and submit the payment either online or you mail in a check. Okay, so that's kind of the first option that you have as a self-prepared Form 1040 filer. The second option is if you pay somebody to prepare your tax return, right? So if you hire a tax preparer to assist with the 1040 filing, the software platform they use will also enable them to be able to file an extension request. So whether they use Drake or Lacerte or Pro Series, ATX, Thomson Reuters, whatever it might be, all of those platforms have the ability to file 4868s to extend the Form 1040 deadline for you as a taxpayer. Okay. A third option is just simply paper file it, right? So you can complete a paper file 4868 in PDF format, fill out the fields, print it, mail it to the appropriate address with a payment if you are submitting it with a payment. So that's always an option. Now, paper filing does take a little while longer. It's also a little more risky because you never know. Things get lost in the mail. It could show up to the IRS site and they lose it. So e-filing is always the preferred route. If you ask either myself or any other kind of tax preparer out in the space, e-filing is always the best way to go. And then the last one here, third-party providers. So the IRS has links to several what they call approved third-party e-file providers, which even offer the extension service for free. So if you visit this site here, irs.gov/filing/free e-file, everyone can file an extension for free. Obviously, you can either type that in or Google it. You'll find the same page, but they have a list of a number of providers that will provide free extension e-file service for you, and a lot of them even offer providing free Form 1040 filing services, so you can prepare your 1040 online in the browser there and submit it electronically, and that's also for free, assuming your income qualifies within their ranges. So let's look at an example of the 4868 here. So we're going to look at, this is the paper filed version. So in our example here, we have John Q. taxpayer. He needs an extension for his return, so he puts in his name, use your full name, full first name, middle initial, last name, your address, obviously, and then your social security number. So for lines 4 through 7 here, what John's already done is he's estimated his total tax liability for 2020. In other words, he's already kind of done his return and he sees what he's going to owe, or what his total liability is, and then he's also applied how much he's already paid in. So the line 5 item includes federal tax withheld from your W-2, so your W-2 federal withholding, plus any estimated payments you made during the year. And then obviously the balance due is the difference there. And so in this example, John owes a lot of money, but he's a little short on cash. So he's going to file an extension. He's going to pay $20,000 towards that balance. That's okay. Again, if John wants to avoid underpayment and interest penalties, he should pay the whole amount. But again, the extension is automatic no matter what, even if John's paying nothing. But in this case, he's going to make some type of payment to reduce the amount of balance due when he actually has to file the return, and then pay whatever's left at the end of the period. Now, to be clear, part 2, you can leave all these fields blank, right? So in part 2, let's say you don't want to make any payments and you don't even want to disclose what you think your total liability is. You can leave all these blank and file an extension request, and the IRS will approve it. Okay, so don't feel compelled to estimate the total amount of tax liability or your payments, balance due. If you do know these numbers, then certainly fill them out. But again, you can leave all these blank and submit this extension request. It's referred to as filing a 0 extension, and the IRS will still approve the extension. Okay, so so what John would do here is he would print this, cut this bottom section out, send the voucher in with the payment, write a social security number on the check, mail it to the appropriate address, and the IRS will accept it. So this other example I have here, it's the same data, but this is one that was generated with e-file software. So you can see it for the most part looks the same. We don't have the instructions up here because it came out of the tax prep software, but the information is the same. So you have the taxpayer name and address, social security number, estimated total liability, the payments made, and the amount he's paying with the return. Now, where does he file this? Well, it depends on your address. So here we have some additional information. Taxpayer lives in Florida, Louisiana, Mississippi. Send to this address if you're including a payment. Send to this address if you're not making a payment. And then you go on down the list. So very important to check based on your residency, right? Where are you a resident? Where should you submit the extension if you're paper filing it? And where should you submit the payment if you're filing an extension with the payment? Okay, so all these addresses are updated yearly on the IRS website, so always double check the address to make sure you're sending it to the right office. Otherwise, there could be a delay in processing both the extension and your payment. Now, if we look at, just to cover briefly, the 1040 Schedule 3. So 1040 Schedule 3 is where we report additional tax credits or payments. And the reason why I want to highlight this form is any amount you pay with your extension is reported on this schedule. So on line 9 here, amount paid with the extension to file, we're reporting the $20,000 that John submitted with his extension request. Okay, and that's important because the extension request payment is separate from the withholding you had during the year, and it's separate from the estimated tax payments you made during the year. Okay, so the $20,000 would be reported there. If you made estimated payments, those are separately stated on page 2. Okay, so here we see on line 31, we have the $20,000 that we paid with the extension request. That's okay there. W-2 withholdings on line 25A, and then estimated payments, if any, are reported on line 26. So on line 26, you see 2020 estimated payments and amount applied from 2019 return. That figure would go there if John had made estimates during the year. And that's different because in prior years, all of these amounts were lumped together. Estimated tax payments and the amount paid with your extension would be clumped together in one line item, but now they're separately stating them. And I think that's just to make it more clear as to when you're making the payments and what's the character of the payment being made. Okay, so that covers it for this video on the 4868. I hope that was helpful. If you have any questions, please leave me a comment below, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video. Thank you.